Hello, my friends. Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. I've been in a little bit of a time warp. I can't even believe it's Wednesday. It's been such a different week for me. I hope everybody is doing great. I'm just going to double check here that we're live and working fine, and then I'm going to jump into today's topic. If you are live, please say hi. Let me know that you're here. I love any and all comments, thoughts, etc. as we go. So please feel free to make this a conversation, even though I'm talking at a screen. I actually really love Facebook Live because it is a different, but it's a way to have a conversation. So anyway, feel free to have a conversation with me today. And if you're catching the replay, I'd love to also know your comments and your general thoughts. If you want to put them in the comments, we can have a conversation online afterwards. So that's always my invitation to you. And I do come back in and check the comments from these lives and love to have conversation continue. So hi, welcome to today's topic, which is about sanity during pivoting. There's lots and lots and lots of tips that I could share with you in terms of how to manage your sanity when you're pivoting or doing something new in your business. And this really honestly applies to, I think, any period of time in your business journey where you actually lately today I've been calling it your genius journey. So feel free to use that term because I'm playing around with it. Anytime that you are on your genius journey, on your journey of doing work that you love, because I believe that as we grow and evolve as people, we also have to grow and evolve our businesses over time. And that's why we have transitions and pivots that happen. It's not because you didn't get it right the first time. It's not because something's wrong with you. It's not because you've missed something and you didn't see something. It's because you've grown and evolved, you've expanded, you've evolved to that next level person, whether that's you as a soul, you personally, or you professionally. That's always going to be an impact. So one of the things that I find that happens when we go through those pivots is the energy can sometimes get stagnant. It can sometimes feel weird and wonky. The things that used to feel flowy and easy just sometimes don't, or not all of the things necessarily, but some of the things. And I think while sometimes, and this isn't to say that when something doesn't feel right, you don't do it or something's wrong, because I think sometimes running a business and taking it seriously is about showing up consistently and continuing to do the thing, not necessarily when it feels forced over time, but to not let that, oh, it doesn't feel easy and flowy today, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to take that sales action, or I'm not going to go live every week like I always do, or I'm not going to follow up on that potential client call because it just doesn't feel good, right? Like resistance is a fucker. Resistance is really smart and will give you all the logical, like lawyerly reasons why you shouldn't do something. So this isn't necessarily about that. I don't think that you can take that and apply it all the time. And when at the same time, there's another end of that spectrum where when you're doing something and you notice a pattern of this used to feel light and flowy, and not just yesterday and not just today and not just last week, but for the last month or two, I've noticed, right? You start to see a pattern of this thing that used to feel fun and light me up just doesn't, or maybe it's more subtle. It just doesn't light me up quite as much as it used to. It feels like a little more of an effort than it used to. And that can be very confusing. But it can be one of those sort of moments, one of those indicators is the word I'm looking for, that something needs to change. It doesn't necessarily mean, scrap everything and screw it all, but it's just sort of a like, hey, hang on a minute, pay attention. Give yourself that chance to really let your work tell you sometimes kind of when it's time to make a pivot, or when something's just not quite right. You don't even need to know the answer of where you need to go instead, or what you need to do next, or what needs to be different. But staying in that space of, okay, this is interesting. Something is changing in my fulfillment. Something is changing. This thing that used to feel fun and exciting feels 90% fun and exciting as fun and exciting as it used to, or something isn't as exciting, something isn't lighting me up as much. it is important, I think, to pay attention to those things, especially when they become patterns. And so that's what I want to talk about today, because something that I've been doing. So my tip for today is about how to stay sane during these transitions, how to stay sane during these moments of pivoting, or even just, sorry, I'm just going to close my door, even just navigating sort of, okay, what is even happening, right? So let's say that you're not even in a pivot, you're just sort of like paying attention to, there's this thing that I used to do. All of a sudden it doesn't quite feel as fun and exciting, and I'm not as lit up and like intrinsically, naturally, organically motivated to do that thing. What's going on, right? Sometimes it's just, that's how resistance shows up. Sometimes it just needs a little tweak, and sometimes it's a pattern that you have to pay attention to so that you can keep running a business that really feels sustainable to you. Again, not that everything has to be fun and exciting. So when we're in that space, of something's changing, something is shifting, something I need something different, but I maybe or maybe not know what it is. That I find, I've seen this in my own business. I've seen this in my clients' businesses when they're going through a transition, that sometimes that energy can feel still. It's funny timing. I got a message from a client today saying like, nothing's really happening right now. And so that feeling, right, that the energy is stagnant, that I'm not moving, my business isn't moving, I'm in a wait and see pattern, all of those kind of moments when you're kind of like, what's going on? It's just sort of, and this can be if something is slow, like leads aren't coming in at the level that they used to, or it can just be that it feels slow. And this is where we've got to double check, right? Because I'm going to go off on a tangent, but it's very easy to think that things feel slow when you're just not tracking it properly. So that's why I feel like numbers are always good for us to kind of go back to and double check. Like, are we just making that up in our minds because it feels different and it's easier, or is it really true? Okay, so back from the tangent. So when things are feeling that stagnant, like, okay, something's got to change. I'm in a transition, but I don't know what it is. Or even if you're in a transition and you know where you are going, and there are moments, right? Just like anything in life, there are moments when you're kind of moving fast. There's moments when you're moving slow. There's moments when you feel like you're standing still, even though you're not, right? Because time is moving forward. You're still a person. You're still growing and changing every day, whether, just because they're teeny tiny shifts and things that are happening in our lives doesn't mean that we're tracking it and we're not noticing like the bigness of a big transition. Just because big stuff isn't happening in your life doesn't mean you're not growing. Doesn't mean your business isn't growing. And so when we get to those moments of the stagnant energy, one of the things that I find can get people stuck is they want to logic their way out of it. I've done this myself. They think, okay, and I've talked about this a lot, I'm missing my clarity. I'm not so sure where to go now. So I'm just going to sit here until that like lightning strikes and I get the aha moment. And while there's lots of things that you can do, and I do believe that creating space for stillness, creating space for those downloads, slowing things down, especially if things feel like they're just still moving at the regular pace, there's a lot of importance, and I've done several lives recently around this, the power of the pause. There's a lot of value in slowing down. And sometimes things slow down so much that we're sort of like, what? Now what? So when you're feeling stuck, when you're feeling that stagnant energy and that inability to move forward, number one, I encourage you to find a baby step in the direction. I've done lives about this too. I just want to bring it in before we talk about today's guidance. Number one, yes, find a baby step. Find a way to start moving forward. Even if you don't know how to move forward, find a baby step way. And under that umbrella, one baby step way that you might choose is something that I have realized recently is just something that has always been part of how I run my business. It's been there since day one. In fact, this action that I've been taking in my business, I've been in business now for I just hit my 5-year anniversary last month. We're at 5 years and 1 month. This is actually something I was doing 6, 8 months before I even started my business, when I was in the process of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my next chapter professionally. And it's something that has been so important to my success, very important to my sanity. And it helps me continue to move forward, even in those moments where I don't feel like I'm moving forward. It helps me to further my thinking. And it's really quite simple, but it's something that especially people, I find, when your marketing strategy is primarily focused on meeting people online and using social media as your primary marketing strategy, this is what I think a lot of people are missing, and it's not naturally part of your strategy. I'm giving you a lot of preface here, but this is really big. I think this is a really big deal, and it's something I've just recently realized. It's one of those like, oh, I've been doing this the whole time, but it's really, and I knew it was pivotal to my success, but it's just sort of something I've just naturally been doing and not really paying attention to the impact that it's made. Having conversations with smart people. Have a conversation with a smart person. And I'm saying it really vaguely because I really want to open your mind to what that looks like for you, given where you are in your entrepreneurial journey, where you are in your genius journey, where you are in your professional journey, where you are in your personal journey, is just hop on a call, get a coffee with a smart person and start talking, start sharing what's going on with you, and get some of their feedback, get their thoughts. Don't do this with everybody, right? Like you got to be really intentional. And I think, I don't want to say careful, but I don't think these conversations are for everyone, because I personally don't want to ask somebody who's not running a business, who doesn't understand how deeply personal my business is, and who doesn't understand how to play big, or how big I want to play in my business. Those people, just like Brene Brown would say, like, I'm not going to speak to somebody who's not also in the arena, or somebody who doesn't understand that I'm in the arena and can support me in that way. Do we have a comment? Okay. And so, oops. Okay, we're still live, good. So have some parameters. But getting on a conversation getting on a call, having a conversation with a smart person and bringing up where you're sitting is invaluable. It can be with your business coach. It can be with your life coach or your therapist. It can be with your best friend. It can be with your husband or your partner. It can be with another colleague. This is where I've been spending a lot of my time recently. I've actually been having a lot of conversations since this summer, when I was going through some major mindset shifts that have then sort of shifted me into some small big pivots to me, but small pivots in my business as far as like externally how other people would see my business changing. It's a small shift that you guys may or may not be aware of, and I'll announce my shifts when they're done in full, ready to be active. But I realized I was starting to have these I started doing something that I hadn't done in a while this summer when I was going through my mindset shifts and my growth and my next level expansion around, oh, I want to share this with this person, or, I'm going through this and I feel like this person would really resonate with it, or really have a new way, a new perspective that I don't really have on it. And so I've just started to notice that this is something that I do naturally. I'm an extroverted talker. I'm an extroverted thinker. And so when I am stuck on something, I need to process it with other people. I have to pick those people carefully, but I know how to do that. And I also have learned not to take things personally, but I do think it's really important to get clear on what it is that you're looking for from the person. It's very helpful to also have that conversation, but to just have a conversation and say, I want to catch up and see what's going on with you. I have something around my business that I would love to get your perspective on. And just, sometimes I'll just say, can you just let me just talk and see what lands with you and what doesn't, and what you think, and not even what you think I can do or should do, but like, what are you hearing? Can you help me make sense of my mess? Or can you help me think about it differently? right? I've been having, one of the things I've been doing this week, in fact, one of the things that has raised this to my like awareness of, oh, I didn't even know what I was doing, that's helping me think things through, is I actually got onto calls with two, and I've got another one planned, with two people who I actually went to graduate school with almost, oh my God, exactly 20 years ago. These are people who I've stayed friends with, I've stayed connected with from a colleague perspective and a friend perspective. And they are people that are typically some of the smartest people I know. It's not about their IQ. They happen to be very smart, but I always value the way that they think, even though we were trained similarly, right? We went through the same graduate school program in organization development. We learned how to look at organizations in a really unique way so that we could really understand what was happening within an organization so that we could help consult to them. So on the one hand, they think kind of like me from a business standpoint, but on the other hand, they're very, very different. They have had very different experiences professionally and personally from me. And even when they come to the table with a completely different idea than I have or perspective than I have, because I know them so well and I trust their brain, I'm more likely to listen to them than I might be somebody else who might be equally smart, equally successful, or more so, because I know them and I feel that I can be vulnerable with them and trust them. And so like neither of these, well, that's not true. One of them has a business, one of them does not. One of them has been in corporate forever. So it doesn't have to be with a business bestie. I definitely sign up, I co-sign the idea that a lot of people have a business bestie or some colleagues that they reach out to and talk to on a regular basis to help them, you know, keep their brain on their business and keep thinking creatively and keep moving forward. And that's really helpful too. But I want to open up your mind to like what it means to just sit down and have a conversation with a smart person, whatever that means to you. Because if I was thinking about it strictly from a business perspective, I wouldn't reach out to somebody who doesn't also run a business, right? But I really value these people's perspectives on, frankly, anything. And I know that there's no hard feelings, you know, in any which way of like whether I take their advice or whether I see things the way they do. And in fact, having different perspectives helps me sort of, even if I don't change my mind, it helps me decide and understand, like if I talk it through, it helps me to understand sort of more of the depth of these are actually 3 more reasons why I think this and I disagree with you, right? And so being able to have a conversation with somebody like that, where anything goes, nothing is personal, you're not, you know, needing to be on the same page. In fact, having a conversation with a smart person most of the time means you're not going to see it the same way they are. And the point isn't to bring somebody to your way of thinking, right? The point isn't to find a way to agree. I personally love to have conversations with people who see things differently than me so that I can see things differently, or so that I can, as I said, ground in more deeply to what I actually think and believe. And so I want to backtrack this a little bit because I'm talking sort of in generalities, but I've noticed 2 things in my own business career, time running a business, entrepreneurial journey. 2 places where this has helped me the most. Full permission to steal this. This is not a Laura Livingston idea. Like I said, this is just something that I realized recently I've been doing for a long time, and it has been incredibly valuable for my sanity, but also for my success, because I don't think, even if you are a solopreneur, I don't think we do any of this shit by ourselves, in true honesty. Whether you believe in, you know, connecting to spirit guides and your higher self, the universe, whether you have a supportive partner at home that helps you, whether you have a business coach, whether you have a colleague that's doing the same thing that you're doing, whether you have a best friend that really gets what you're doing and you have somebody to talk to, that even if you're the one doing the work every day, solopreneurs, you're still not doing it all by yourself, right? You always have support. And this is where I think we have to get out of our own way, get out of our I'm working by myself in my business, right? I have a team, but ultimately I'm still the decision maker, right? Like I might delegate decisions to my team. I might collaborate with my team around certain things, but if at the end of the day, this is my name on this business, this is my name on the bank account, and it's my decision. And that can be lonely if you let it. That can be feel like, on the one hand, I think I know you guys love autonomy just like I do, and freedom. And sometimes it feels really fun to do stuff together and to have a partner in some of your work. And so again, I always argue, like, even if you're doing this as a solopreneur, as a party of one, and you don't have a team, you're probably still getting support somewhere. And if you're not, go find it. Or notice where you're getting it that you're not even giving credit to. Like if you call your mom once a week and talk about your business and she helps you, stay sane, like, are you thanking her? It doesn't matter what phase you are in business, you're most likely getting support. And so when you actively, intentionally look for, who do I want to talk to? Who do I want to have a smart conversation with? That's how I say it. But like, who could help me further my thinking on this? Not because they necessarily have an expertise in the thing that I'm dealing with. That might be helpful too. But just because they're smart, just because I think they're smart, just because I value their opinion, right? Smart doesn't have to be IQ or EQ. It can just be somebody whose opinion you deeply value, whose perspective, let's say it that way, whose perspective you deeply value, because this isn't about really having an opinion. This isn't, Democrat, Republican. This isn't, right, left. This isn't up, down. This isn't anything other than everybody sees things differently. And if I'm thinking about something and I'm stuck, movement happens very often when we start to think about it differently, start to consider a way to think about it differently. And so that's something that I've noticed that has been happening for me in my business over the last, several months now. But then something shifted in the last week or two where I realized the conversations I'm having with people, some have come to me and some I've sought out. But they're really challenging me. I'm actually like not having arguments with people, but like I'm really diving deeper into the way that somebody else looks at something. And really like almost like you try on an outfit and try on a pair of shoes or try on a hat. Like I'm trying it on. And I'm like seeing how it feels, and this part doesn't feel good, but why doesn't it feel good? Because that doesn't necessarily mean it's not resonating with me. It just means it's so foreign to me. I don't ever think about it that way. But if I try on that thought process for a minute, maybe there's something I can learn. Doesn't mean I'm going to take it and make it part of my wardrobe, but I might, or I might take a piece of that and it might help me further my thinking. And typically I think that it does. So I just want to encourage you. So here's the two places I've seen this play out in my business. And then I want to talk about where I see this play out in my clients' businesses. For me, when I first started my business, I joined a networking group before I even knew what my business was going to be. And I did that because this is probably a whole life by itself, but I did that because I needed to be mentally and emotionally, I needed to be in an environment of people who were doing the thing. I was shifting from a corporate career to running a business. And while I felt that I knew exactly, once I picked what I was going to do, I felt that I knew exactly like who I wanted to serve and how I wanted to do it and how I wanted it to feel and how I didn't want it to feel, like the last 5 years of my corporate career, because I burned out in those last 5 years. But I didn't know how it was going to look. You know what I mean? I knew what I didn't want and I knew who I wanted to serve, but I didn't know how it was supposed to really look or feel. And everybody's doing it differently, but I wanted to surround myself with women in particular who were doing the big thing, who were putting themselves out there every day and being successful at whatever level they were being successful. And I found that And at that point in time, 5 years ago, I didn't have a single friend that was running a business. I had no friends, family members, mentors, anybody to look up to, no models, no perspective on what that was like. And so having a group of people that I could surround myself with and talk to and observe and get ideas from and share my ideas with them was incredibly helpful for me in terms of building my confidence, but also just really grounding into what does it mean to run a business by yourself? Not in corporate, and how to think about things differently. And so that was really valuable. And then as I went along my journey, I started noticing I had several people that had started businesses around the same time as me, and we were all newbies. And I was reaching out to them on a somewhat regular basis, monthly, bi-monthly. I was having one-on-one conversations with other new business owners, and we were kind of figuring it out together, but sharing ideas, sharing perspectives. And that was really, really helpful. And then I also had sort of the people that were at the next level or 2 or 3 ahead of me that I was, able to get some mentorship conversations around, not also in an exchange, right? This is also about having an energy exchange. I was networking, but I was also just having conversations with people and catching up and having coffee and finding out how their lives were. And so this isn't about, sucking people dry. This is about an energy exchange and a relationship. Some of these people became my clients. Some of these people refer me business. Some of these people just will always remain the person that I call about blah, blah, blah when I have a thought about it because I trust their opinion on it. And so it was really helpful for me in the beginning because I had no model, I had no colleagues, I missed my colleagues from corporate, and nobody I knew was doing what I was doing. And so they could offer their perspective, but only from the perspective of somebody who would never run a business. And so I really needed to have and wanted to have people in my life and in my world that were doing the same thing I was, right? Running a business, at least somebody in that environment. And so that was really huge part of my sanity of trying to figure out how to get this thing off the ground, and grow as a business owner. And so I always have recommended networking or connecting with people, to new business owners. But what I haven't really paid attention to is how much I've used that ongoing over the last 5 years, or really the last 4 years after I've been in business for a year or two and kind of had some traction and kind of knew how I wanted to do things. And it's funny that I noticed I've really started doing more and more of that in the last few months and really spending more of my time and energy, bringing that back into my business in a way that I've never been doing it, in a way that I've never done before. And this is where I see that next level shift, that next level expansion happening for me. It's also when these are the conversations I have with my clients. Like sometimes I am this person for my clients. And that's not that they can't also have other colleagues. And I think that your coach should not be your be all end all, just like your therapist shouldn't, just like your partner shouldn't. We need to have some variety. We need to diversify our portfolio of the people in our lives that support our lives, that support our businesses, because different perspectives are valuable for different topics and different things that we're going through. But I think what I've noticed with me right now, and what I've noticed in my clients, is that when we brainstorm ideas, when we just share, this is what's up with me right now in my business, in my life, this is how things are showing up, we start to elevate the conversation. We start to move forward. We start to get out of that sticky, stagnant energy and move into whatever is next, whether that becomes something that you're aware of. Sometimes you'll have a conversation with somebody and you get instant clarity and you're like, oh, thank you. That was so helpful. Now I can move forward, right? But it doesn't always happen that way. And I want to encourage you to zoom out from those conversations in terms of having a result, just like when you're on a discovery call with a client. Yes, of course, you're on a discovery call with a client and you want them to buy your stuff. And you're also just developing a relationship. You're also interviewing them to make sure that they're the right client for you. You're also making sure that the timing of things make sense. You might also, or instead be referring them out to someone else because you're not quite the right person to talk to. You're still, or to work with in that moment in time based on what's going on with them in their business, but you're still developing that relationship, right? And sometimes the least obvious conversations that I have with people are the ones that give me the most clarity. I'm still learning from having discovery calls with people who are not the right fit for me. I'm still learning from that 5 years in. And for the most part, even though I've pivoted and evolved, the same kinds of people are still the same kinds of people that I worked with 5 years ago that I'm working with now, or that are good fits for me now, plus or minus. Maybe 80% of that is the same. And I'm still learning from the conversations when either somebody says no or I say no in a loving and gentle way to say this isn't quite the right fit. I'm still learning from those conversations. Oh, wow, that's so interesting. I thought I would have wanted to help this person with this, but they weren't the right fit because of that, right? And so I guess my suggestion here is, if you want to reach out and have a conversation with a smart person, let go of the result, because most likely the result will be different than you think it is what you want, or different than you think it will be. And sometimes that result will hit you an hour later, a week later. Sometimes that result will hit you in your second or third conversation with that person, or sometimes that result will hit you later because they said something that you kind of dismissed, but then somebody else said it again, and then somebody else said it again, and then your brain finally took it in, and you're like, oh, there's something here. I've heard this 3 times now. So when you can have a conversation with a smart person and release judgment, and that's why I call it having a conversation with a smart person. It's not running your business idea by somebody. It's not running your pivot problem by somebody. It says pivot problem by somebody. It can be all of those things. And when we title it something like as simple and silly as just have a conversation with a smart person, then you're releasing judgment of where that needs to go. And you're just having a conversation. And, of course, you don't want to make people think you're weird and reach out to them and say, I want to have a conversation with a smart person. You can have a reason for reaching out to them and let it be authentic. For me, oftentimes it's just, I want to catch up with people. That's how I reach out to people and ask for those conversations, because at the end of the day, that's really what it is. I want to catch up with them. I want to hear how they're doing. Whether they're colleagues or whether they are clients, former clients, or whether they're friends, family, whatever. Just having a catch-up conversation is enough of a reason. And then there is no result or expectation. And sometimes I'll say, and I have this thing going on in my business I'd love to get your perspective on, if you're open to it. And if you don't want to, that's fine too. So there's all kinds of ways to do that, but never underestimate the power of a conversation with a smart person. Like I said, it's something that it served me. I was doing this. I was talking to people all over the place when I left my corporate job and didn't know what I wanted to do next. I was on the phone with people all the time. Blah, 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 blah. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that. And people want to know, right? So we were just catching up. But the part of the conversation where it was about me, right? I'm also having a conversation with them and finding out what's going on with them. There's an energy exchange. But the part of the conversation that was about me, I was able to just talk and think out loud and get their thoughts. And sometimes, and many of them would say, oh, you know what? There's a lady who does something like that. Why don't you check out their website? And that would enable me to go, interesting. I didn't know that was a thing that people do. I don't really want to do that, but there's something about this that I'm interested in. Let me just keep reading, right? There's always breadcrumbs and things to support you. And you may or may not know that somebody does something that could help you. You may or may not know that somebody has a perspective that could support you in furthering your thinking if you don't just get on a call. So whenever you're stuck, wherever you're stuck, whenever you're not even just stuck, but just you're feeling the energy slowing down, and that doesn't, there's times and places for slowing down the energy and allowing the clarity to come in. 100%. Lots of lives on that. And today's conversation is when you're feeling like you're ready for it to move and you're not sure how to get it going. Just in the same way that when you feel that stuck energy in your body and you're not sure how to get it moving, sometimes just moving your body, taking a walk, taking a run, doing whatever your exercise regime is, doing some yoga or doing a meditation can help to sort of move energy. Same with your brain, same with whatever is evolving in your business, and same with your pivots, with your transitions, with whatever's happening. Get that energy moving by talking about it, but not sitting in the story, having conversations with people who have a different perspective, who see life differently, who see business differently, who know people that you don't know. That's how I think we can support one another. If you're looking for somebody to have these kinds of conversations with, drop a note here in the group. There's lots and lots and lots of collaborations happening here. Sometimes I hear about them, sometimes I don't. But you could say, I'm looking for somebody to just have a smart conversation with, around blah, 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 and see what comes out. There may be somebody who is exactly the person you need to speak to, or who is your next client, or you're their next client, or you're just, networking for the sake of furthering each other's businesses. There's always really beautiful opportunities and relationships to create. And relationships to further that you would never know about if you didn't just ask. So my challenge to you this week is, when you're feeling that stagnant energy, when you're looking to shake it up a little bit, who can you reach out to, or who can you put something out into a Facebook group or online or on your social media, inviting people to a conversation, however you want to call it. This isn't about sales, and it could support your sales. This is about you furthering your relationships with other people and your thought processes and how we give and exchange and just grow and evolve as people. Like, I think we're here to help each other out, not to just do stuff in a vacuum. So post something in the Facebook group, hop on a call with me, whatever is going on in your business. I'm always interested in hearing about it. And if you're going through a transition, this is my one ask to you. If you're going through a transition or a pivot, or if you've gone through one in the past and you're interested in being interviewed by me around that here in the Facebook group, I'm going to do my first live interview in this series. I'm starting a series where we're talking about what it's like to transition, what it's like to go through a pivot, what it's like to go through a change, whether you're in it now or whether you've already gone through one and you want to share your story and get some exposure for your business. I'm starting that. The first session, or the first interview, will be Wednesday, October 26th, so 2 weeks from today. Here live here in the group. I'll put an event up. I'll share information with you guys as we get closer, but I will open up that invitation to you if you want to have a smart conversation about your pivot wherever you are in the process. That's another option that you have as well. And I will put a link here in the comments to sign up for that. If you have any other questions or anything that you would like to see in this group that would support you, as always, please shoot me a message privately, or put a comment here and just tag me and I will come back in. I'm always coming back into these comments and responding because not everybody's going to be live. So thank you. Have a great day. Have some smart conversations. Let me know how it goes. Talk soon.